So you mentioned Quest 3. That's coming out. I've gotten a chance to try that too. That's awesome. So how'd you pull off the mixed? So it's not just virtual reality; it's mixed reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be the first mainstream mixed reality device. I mean, obviously we shipped Quest Pro last year, but it was $1,500. And part of what I'm super proud of is, we try to innovate not just on pushing the state of the art and delivering new capabilities, but making it so it can be available to everyone. And we have this, and it's coming out. It's $500, and in some ways, I think the mixed reality is actually better in Quest 3 than it was than what we're using right now in Quest Pro. So I'm really proud of the team for being able to deliver that kind of an innovation and get it out. But some of this is just software you tune over time and get to be better. Part of it is you put together a product and you figure out what are the bottlenecks in terms of making it a good experience. So we got the resolution for the mixed reality cameras and sensors to be multiple times better in Quest 3. And we just figured that made a very big difference when we saw the experience that we were able to put together for Quest Pro. And part of it is also that Qualcomm just came out with their next generation chipset for VR and MR, that we worked with them on a kind of custom version of it. But that was available this year for Quest 3, and it wasn't available in Quest Pro. So, in a way, Quest 3, even though it's not the Pro product, actually has a stronger chipset in it than the Pro line at a third of the cost. So, I'm really excited to get this in people's hands. It does all the VR stuff that Quest 2 and the others have done too. It does it better because the display is better, and the chip is better, so you'll get better graphics. It's 40% thinner, so it's just more comfortable as well. But the MR is really the big capability shift, and part of what's exciting about the whole space right now is this isn't like smartphones where companies put out a new smartphone every year and you can almost barely tell the difference between that and the one the year before it. For this, each time we put out a new headset, it has like a major new capability, and the big one now is mixed reality, the ability to basically take digital representations of people or objects and superimpose them on the world. And basically, there's one version of this is you're going to kind of have these augments or holograms and experiences that you can kind of bring into your living room or a meeting space or an office. Another thing that I just think is going to be a much kind of simpler innovation is that there are a lot of VR experiences today that don't need to be fully immersive. And if you're playing a shooter game or you're doing a fitness experience, sometimes people get worried about swinging their arms around. Like, am I going to hit a lamp or something? And am I going to run into something? So having that in mixed reality actually is just a lot more comfortable for people, right? You kind of still get the immersion and the 3D experience, and you can have an experience that just wouldn't be possible in the physical world alone. But by being anchored to and being able to see the physical world around you, it's like it just feels so much safer and more secure. And I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy that too. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how people use it. But yeah, Quest 3 coming out later this fall.
Yeah, and I got to experience it with other people sitting around, and there's a lot of furniture, and so you get to see that furniture, you get to see those people, and you get to see those people like enjoy the ridiculousness of you like swinging your arms. I mean, presumably they're friends of yours, even if they make fun of you. There's a lot of love behind that, and that I got to experience that. So that's a really fundamentally different experience than just pure VR with zombies coming out of walls and
Yeah, it's like someone shooting at you and you hide behind your real couch in order
yeah,
to
real
duck
talk.
the fire. Yeah.
It's incredible how it's all integrated, but also like subtle stuff like in a room with no windows, you can add windows to it, and you can look outside as the
Yeah.
zombies run towards you. But like, it's still nice view outside.
Yeah.
It's really, and so that's pulled off by having cameras on the outside of the headset that do the pass through. And that technology is incredible to do that on a
Oh yeah.
small headset and
Yeah, and
to
it's
do
not just the
that.
cameras. You basically you need multiple cameras to capture the different angles and sort of the three-dimensional space. And then it's a pretty complex compute problem, an AI problem to map that to your perspective, right? Because the cameras aren't exactly where your eyes are, because no two people's eyes are going to be in exactly the same place. So you kind of need to get that to line up, and then do that basically in real time, and then generate something that kind of feels natural, and then superimpose whatever digital objects you want to put there. So it's a very interesting technical challenge, and I think we'll continue tuning this for the years to come as well. But I'm pretty excited to get this out because I think Quest 3 is going to be the first device like this with that millions of people are going to get. That's mixed reality, and it's only when you have millions of people using something that you start getting the whole developer community really starting to experiment and build stuff, because now there are going to be people who actually use it. So I think we'll get, we got some of that flywheel going with Quest Pro, but I think it'll really get accelerated once Quest 3 gets out there. And so yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one.
Plus, there's hand tracking so you don't need to have a controller. So the cameras aren't just doing the pass through of the entire physical reality around you. It's also tracking the details of your hands in order to use that for like gesture recognition, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been able to get way further on hand recognition in a shorter period of time than I expected. So that's been pretty cool. I don't know. Did you see the demo experience that we built around
Piano?
the piano, learning to play piano?
Yeah, it's incredible. You're basically playing piano on a table, and that's without any controller. And like how well it matches physical reality with no latency, and it's tracking your hands with no latency, and it's tracking all the people around you with no latency, integrating physical reality and digital reality. Obviously, that connects exactly to this Kodak avatar, which is in parallel, allows us to have ultra realistic copies of ourselves in this mixed reality. It's so like it's all converging towards like an incredible digital experience in the metaverse. To me, obviously, I love the intimacy of conversation, so even this is awesome. But do you have other ideas of what this unlocks, of like something like Kodak Avatar unlocks in terms of applications, in terms of things we're able to do?
Well, there's what you can do with avatars overall in terms of superimposing digital objects on the physical world. And then there's kind of psychologically, what does having photorealistic do? So I think we're moving towards a world where, we're going to have something that looks like normal glasses, where you see the physical world, but you also see holograms. And in that world, I think that they're going to be, not too far off, maybe, by the end of this decade, we'll be living in a world where there are kind of as many holograms when you walk into a room as there are physical objects. And it really raises this interesting question about what are, a lot of people have this phrase where they call the physical world the real world. And, I kind of think increasingly, the physical world is super important, but I actually think the real world is the combination of the physical world and the digital worlds coming together. But until this technology, they were sort of separate, right? It's like you access the digital world through a screen, right? And, maybe it's a small screen that you carry around, or it's a bigger screen when you sit down at your desk and strap in for a long session. But they're kind of fundamentally divorced and disconnected. And I think part of what this technology is going to do is bring those together into a single coherent experience of what the modern real world is, which is, it's got to be physical, because that we're physical beings. So the physical world is always going to be super important. But increasingly, I think a lot of the things that we kind of think of can be digital holograms. I mean, any screen that you have can be a hologram. Any media, any book, art, it can basically be just as effective as a hologram as a physical object. Any game that you're playing, a board game or any kind of physical game, cards, ping pong, things like that. They're often a lot better as holograms, because you could just kind of snap your fingers and instantiate them and have them show up. It's like you have a ping pong table show up in your living room, but then you can snap your fingers and have it be gone. So that's super powerful. So I think that it's actually an amazing thought experiment of like how many physical things we have today that could actually be better as interactive holograms. But then beyond that, I think the most important thing obviously is people. So the ability to have these mixed hangouts, whether they're social or meetings, where you show up to a conference room, you're wearing glasses, or a headset in the very near term, but hopefully by over the next 5 years, glasses or so, and you're there physically. Some people are there physically, but other people are just there as holograms, and it feels like it's them. who are right there. And also, by the way, another thing that I think is going to be fascinating about being able to blend together the digital and physical worlds in this way is we're also going to be able to embody um, AIs as well. So I think you'll also have meetings in the future where you're basically, maybe you're sitting there physically, and then you have, a couple of other people who are there as holograms, and then you have like Bob the AI, who's an engineer on your team who's helping with things, and he can now be embodied as as a realistic avatar as well, and just join the meeting in that way. So I think that's going to be pretty compelling as well. So then, okay, so what can you do with photorealistic avatars compared to kind of the more expressive ones that we have today? Well, I think a lot of this actually comes down to acceptance of the technology. And because all of the stuff that we're doing, I mean, the motion of your eyebrows, the motion of your eyes, the cheeks, and all of that, there's actually no reason why you couldn't do that on an expressive avatar too. I mean, it wouldn't look exactly like you, but I mean, you can make a cartoon version of yourself and still have it be almost as expressive. But I do think that there's this bridge between the current state of most of our interactions in the physical world and where we're getting in the future with this kind of hybrid physical and digital world, where I think it's going to be a lot easier for people to kind of take some of these experiences seriously with the photorealistic avatars to start. And then I'm actually really curious to see where it goes longer term. I could see a world where people stick to the photorealistic and maybe they modify them to make them a little bit more interesting, but maybe fundamentally we like photorealistic things. But I could also see a world that once people get used to the photorealistic avatars and they get used to these experiences, that I actually think that there could be a world where people actually prefer being able to express themselves in kind of ways that aren't so tied to their physical reality. And so that's one of the things that I'm really curious about. And I don't know, in a bunch of our internal experiments on this, one of the things that I thought was psychologically pretty interesting is people have no issues blending photorealistic stuff and not. So, we could have for this specific scene that we're in now,
Mhm.
we happen to sort of being in a dark room. I think part of that aesthetic decision, I think, was based on the way you like to do your podcast. But we've
Yes.
done experiences like this where you have like a cartoony background, but photorealistic people who you're talking to, and we seem to people just seem to just think that is completely normal, right? It doesn't bother you. It doesn't feel like it's weird. Another thing that we've experienced with is basically you have a photorealistic avatar that you're talking to, and then right next to them, you have an expressive kind of cartoon avatar. And that actually is pretty normal too, right? It's like, it's not that weird, right? To basically being interacting with different people in different modes like that. So I'm not sure. I think it'll be an interesting question to what extent these photorealistic avatars are like a key part of just transitioning from being comfortable in the physical world to this kind of new modern real world that kind of includes both the digital and physical, or if this is like the long-term way that it stays. I think that there are going to be uses for both the expressive and the photorealistic over time. I just don't know what the balance is going to be.
Yeah, it's a really good, interesting philosophical question. But to me, in the short term, the photorealistic is amazing. To where
Yeah.
I would prefer, like you said, the workroom, but like on a beach with a beer, just to see a buddy of mine remotely on a chair next to me drinking a beer. I mean, that, as realistic as possible, is an incredible experience. So I don't want any fake hats on him. I don't want any, just chilling with a friend, drinking beer, looking at the ocean while not being in the same place together. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
experience is just, it's a fundamentally it's just a high quality experience of friendship. Whatever we seek in friendship, it seems to be present there in the same kind of realism I'm seeing right now. This is totally a game changer. So to me, I can see myself sticking with this for a long time.